So you want a Proud Namekian and Piccolo, but you don't want to pay the $70 retail price that the figure does go for. Or you're just like me and you much rather prefer the Dragon Ball Z colorway of Piccolo over the superhero colorway. Either way, I'm going to be showing you how you can turn this $35 superhero Piccolo into the Piccolo that you want. Now there is a couple things you do need. Obviously you need the figure itself, and you're not going to really need the accessories, so you can go ahead and just put those to the side. Now already by itself, the figure is a really good figure for a $35 retail price, and it does have the same exact sculpt minus the chest and the boots as the previously mentioned Proud Namekian Piccolo figure. Now again, you will need a couple things like this cool blue matte paint as well as this pink polish matte paint. Now you can pick both of these up for only 58 cents each at your local Walmart, which makes these super cheap as well as perfect for our customers. Now as you can see, I did use a hairdryer, but that is completely optional, as I specifically use this just to heat up the plastic to make it easier when I did pull it apart. Now as you can see, at this point I am completely dissecting Piccolo, which will make things easier for us when we do start the painting process. Now pulling off these shoulder pads should be easy enough, even though I did have some trouble with mine, but after some push and pull, it did eventually come off. Again, I did use the hair dryer to make it a little bit easier when pulling the arms off, so I wouldn't damage anything. Now finally, after having the figure completely pulled apart, this is when we do start the paint process. Now as you can see, I did start off with that pink paint, just going over all the yellow areas with a light coat. Now make sure when you are doing this with an even thin layer of paint. That way you can avoid any type of clumping of the paint. That way when we finish, we do end up with the best end results. Now with the shoulders, I did end up using an old paintbrush to stick inside of the shoulder, which made it way easier to maneuver when I was painting it, and it definitely made the process a lot easier, as well as it kept me from getting my hands covered in paint. Now as you can see, we are using that cool blue. It's going to be the same exact thing as the arm. You want to do an even thin layer of paint. That way you can avoid any type of clumping on the belt. Now in total, I think I did about 6 layers of pink paint on the arms as well as the blue on the belt. And that's because the colors we were using were a lot lighter than the colors we were applying them to. But as you can see, after a few layers of paint, everything was starting to look exactly how we wanted it to. Now after finishing everything up, I did actually go back with some red paint and fix all the areas that I did do a little bit of overpainting on, and even fix some of the sloppiness that Tamashii themselves did. Now while I was finishing up, I did actually decide to go ahead and paint his boots. Now this is completely optional since the boots ain't really that big of a deal. That's just me being me, wanting to be as anime accurate as possible. But just in case y'all did want to do this, I did include the paint on screen. That way y'all can see what I mixed together to get the color I use for the boots. And again, it's just gonna be the same thing. We're gonna use an even thin layer of paint on each coat. And in total, I think I used about 5 coats on the boots to get them fully covered. Now, after finishing up, I did lay everything out to dry for at least a good 24 hours before even attempting to put anything together, and that's to completely avoid anything like paint rub when you do move the joints or anything like that. Now that everything is dry, we did go ahead and start assembling the figure. Now, as you can see, I did end up using the hair dryer again. That's to make the process easier when putting the figure back together. Now, in case you're having trouble figuring out which way the belt goes, there is an F on the front side of the belt that tells you which way is the front, as well as an arrow that shows you which side is the top as well as the bottom. Now, as far as everything else, it should be easy enough to assemble it. You just plug everything into each peg, and again, you can use a hair dryer, which will definitely make the process a lot easier. And there we have it. You finally have your very own Proud Namekian Piccolo figure that you wanted to begin with. Again, super easy. Anybody can do this. It just requires some patience and a steady hand. I hope I was able to help everybody out that wanted their own custom Proud Namekian Piccolo. If you could do me a big favor by leaving a like on the video, as well as if you're new, make sure you subscribe. Till then, I'm out. Stay tuned.